welcome to You a Son of a Witch.
Oh, yeah.
This week, we're going on a wizarding probe.
Ooh.
And we're going to be diving into two wild flash fiction stories.
Okay.
The kind that just brim with sons of witches and fantastical elements. It's like stepping right into a fantasy film.
Yeah.
Or an epic series.
For sure.
And you shared two really intriguing pieces with us this week.
Yeah, these are great.
So we're here to kind of unpack the magic.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, so the first flash fiction story is called Heartstrings.
Okay.
And this one presents, I think, a really unique lens on enchantment.
It's true.
And it's far beyond kind of your standard spellcasting fare.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it really is something else.
So in Heartstrings, we meet an enchanter.
Okay.
And his power is in imbuing everyday objects with incredibly potent emotions.
Interesting.
And as the story kind of hints at, this isn't about fumbling through some dusty old grimoire to, find some flashy spells or something. It's much more about channeling the raw essence of feeling into something tangible.
Oh, wow.
And as we kind of explore this a little bit, we'll see how our enchanter, he kind of uncovers this really kind of nasty scheme to control the populace using these really emotionally charged items.
Oh, wow.
Which forces him to kind of weaponize his empathetic gifts while also constantly battling the risk that his own power might corrupt him.
That's interesting.
So that's our first story.
Yeah.
And then we have Ember of the Elements.
Okay.
Which takes us to a completely different realm.
Okay, cool.
And here we meet a seemingly ordinary farm girl.
Oh.
Who discovers that she's the last of a forgotten lineage.
Wow.
Capable of wielding all four elements.
That's awesome.
And this teen, who is believed to be the final elemental, finds herself facing off against a shadowy adversary who is determined to snuff out elemental magic from existence.
Oh, no.
So we're going to follow her journey as she grapples with the immense potential of her powers. And the weighty responsibility of being a potential savior.
Right.
And a true beacon of a hidden legacy.
I like it.
So let's plunge headfirst into Heartstrings.
Okay.
And I want to get your take on this fascinating magic system.
Yeah.
What immediately struck you about the enchanter's ability to kind of imbue objects with emotions?
Well, I think what's so captivating for me, and probably for you too, is this direct, almost like symbiotic link between, the inner emotional states and the outward magical effect.
Yeah.
And the story gives us these really visceral examples, fury igniting a pocket knife.
Right.
Or love radiating warmth, from frostbitten hands.
Yeah.
So it's it really grounds the magic in something deeply human and relatable.
Right.
And I think when you compare that to the often abstract or ritualistic magic systems in other fantasies, the enchanter's power feels intensely personal.
Yeah.
It's his own emotional landscape is the source.
Absolutely. And I love that description of his workshop too.
Yeah.
You mentioned it's kind of cluttered and holding all these stories,
Oh, it's amazing.
Like a child's laughter echoing in a toy.
Right.
Or a soldier's terror clinging to a helmet.
Right.
How do you think that kind of atmosphere enhances our understanding of his power?
Well, it's the workshop itself is a testament to his abilities.
Yeah.
It's not just filled with inert materials.
Cool.
It's this living archive of human experience that's been preserved through his emotional magic.
Right.
Each item carries a trace, a residue of feeling.
Yeah.
That hints at his profound empathy and his capacity to capture these ephemeral moments.
That's a really good point.
And it suggests that his magic isn't just about creation.
Yeah. It's
rooted in a deep understanding of the human heart.
Absolutely. And here's where I think the story takes a really interesting turn.
Yeah.
The ministry, they come to him with these requests.
Okay.
They want a banner to inspire courage in their troops.
Okay.
And they want a goblet designed to dull the conscience of a counselor.
Interesting.
And these requests, they really trouble the enchanter.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? What might be setting off alarm bells for him?
Well, I think he senses the manipulative intent behind the requests. A banner meant to force courage.
Right.
And a goblet designed to suppress conscience.
Mm-hmm.
They're not about fostering genuine virtue or ethical governance.
Right.
They reek of a desire for control.
Yeah.
Maybe even a slide towards tyranny.
That's a good point.
And I think given that, his magic is so intrinsically tied to authentic emotion, these like artificial, manufactured feelings being used for potentially nefarious purposes would probably feel deeply wrong to him, like the perversion of his very gift.
Absolutely. And so instead of refusing outright, which, let's be honest, probably wouldn't have ended well for him, he chooses this much more subtle path of resistance.
Okay.
So how does he twist their requests to serve his own ends?
That's interesting.
Because we see the banner, it's imbued with the lingering echo of a terrified mother's cry.
Wow.
And the goblet carries the heavy regret of a drunkard.
Huh.
So what makes this approach so effective, in your opinion?
His rebellion is brilliantly subversive.
Yeah.
By imbuing these objects with like the genuine, often darker emotions that are associated with the requested concepts, he subtly undermines the ministry's aims. Like, the banner won't inspire like blind, unquestioning bravery, but maybe more profound understanding of fear and like the true cost of what they're fighting for. The goblet, it won't erase conscience, but amplify the gnawing pain of moral compromise. So it's like the subtle sabotage that leverages the inherent truth of his magic against their deceptive intentions. It's a form of psychological warfare waged on a very intimate level.
And we see these enchanted objects kind of out in the world having an effect.
Oh, yeah.
There's a coin of avarice that literally burns a miser's palm.
Wow.
And a songbird that's perpetually weeping.
Oh, my gosh.
So what kind of impact do you think these subtle acts of emotional magic would have on both the powerful figures and the ordinary people in this world?
Well, I think it would sow seeds of unease and distrust throughout society. For those in power who might be driven by greed or a lack of empathy, their own vices are turned against them, making their positions less secure and their inner turmoil more palpable.
And then for the ordinary populace, these objects act as emotional triggers.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe bringing long suppressed feelings to the surface or making them more acutely aware of the emotional undercurrents of their lives.
Interesting.
So what's particularly interesting here is it's not a direct, overt attack. It's a quiet erosion of the established order through emotional resonance.
And then there's the raid on his workshop by the other enchanters. And they find nothing that incriminates him. Which I think is really interesting.
So why is that? Why do they find nothing?
Well, I think their failure to find anything damning really underscores the fundamental difference in their magical philosophies. They're searching for tangible methods, for like codified spells and predictable enchantments. Because that aligns with their understanding of how magic operates. They seem incapable of grasping that his power resides in the intangible realm of emotion. In the deeply personal connection to human experience. So this underestimation, maybe viewing him as like a sentimental dabbler or something, blinds them to the true source and nature of his abilities and allows him to continue his subtle rebellion undetected.
That's interesting.
It suggests that true mastery of magic might extend far beyond mere technical proficiency.
And then he kind of evolves into this almost spectral figure. He's a shadow haunting their councils. And he starts using despair and fury as his primary weapons.
Oh, wow.
So how effective do you think this form of warfare, leveraging these raw emotions, that be against those in positions of power?
It could be incredibly potent. Those who govern often rely on maintaining an image of control, strength, and unwavering authority. But by subtly injecting seeds of despair and fueling internal conflicts through like bursts of collective fury, the enchanter directly attacks their stability from within. So their own negative emotions become instruments of their potential downfall, turning their inner lies into battlegrounds.
That's so interesting.
And it's a particularly insidious strategy because it's so difficult to defend against something that originates within oneself and spreads through the very fabric of their interactions. It's like a virus almost.
And the story mentions that there's a personal cost to all of his actions.
Oh, yeah.
It says, each object took a piece of me.
Right.
What do you think that implies about his future?
It strongly suggests a significant emotional toll. Constantly dealing with and manipulating such intense emotions, even with righteous intent, would likely be profoundly draining. And it raises a critical question: does wielding such a power inevitably lead to a form of emotional exhaustion? Perhaps even a gradual desensitization to the very feelings he manipulates.
Yeah.
The narrative hints that it might not be the power itself that's inherently corrupting,
Yeah.
but rather the constant immersion in the darker aspects of human emotion.
Yeah.
And the inherent risk of that negativity kind of seeping into his own being.
Right.
Blurring the lines of his own empathy.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
And the final confrontation is really compelling.
Oh, absolutely.
The Ministry's own stronghold inadvertently becomes his ultimate weapon.
Yeah.
Drawing on the wellspring of misery contained within its walls.
So what does this reveal to you about the nature of their power versus his?
Well, it really contrasts their more external, perhaps conventional forms of power. Their authority. Yeah. Their resources, their physical defenses.
Right.
With his deeply internal, emotionally resonant magic.
Right.
Their stronghold, it was built upon control and likely some level of oppression.
Yeah.
And it's inadvertently accumulated this potent residue of negative emotions.
Yeah.
A wellspring that he, with his unique abilities, can tap into and amplify.
Yeah.
So he doesn't need to resort to physical violence.
Right.
Because the sheer weight of their own accumulated guilt and fear and despair becomes a far more devastating weapon. Yeah. It's a form of poetic justice, turning their own negativity against them.
And it's interesting, the ending reflects on the enchanter's path as being an inherently solitary one.
Yeah.
Especially given the unique nature of his magic.
Yeah.
So what are the long-term implications of this isolation, in your opinion?
Well, the isolation seems like an almost unavoidable consequence of possessing such singular abilities.
Yeah.
Few could truly comprehend the weight and the inherent risks he constantly carries. Right.
And while he succeeded in dismantling the immediate conspiracy, the emotional cost and the resulting sense of solitude suggest that it's a victory tinged with profound sadness. Perhaps even a sense of loss.
Yeah.
And it forces us to consider whether achieving a great good at the expense of one's own well-being and connection to others can ever be considered a truly unblemished triumph.
That's a great point.
So shall we move on to Ember of the Elements?
Yes, let's shift gears and dive into Ember of the Elements.
Okay.
So this one grabs you right from the start.
Yeah.
With this incredibly vivid image, rain that smells distinctly of smoke.
Wow.
As a direct consequence of the teen's burgeoning fire magic.
Right.
So how does this immediate disruption of the natural order set the stage for her extraordinary nature?
Well, that immediate sensory incongruence, the familiar rain carrying the scent of something inherently disruptive like smoke.
Right.
It instantly signals that the natural order of this world has been touched.
Yeah.
Even altered.
Yeah.
By her very existence.
Wow.
It tells us right away that this is not an ordinary setting.
Right.
And that our protagonist is something exceptional.
Yeah.
Something that doesn't quite fit within the established norms.
Yeah.
So it generates an immediate sense of the unusual.
Right.
And subtly hints at the powerful, perhaps even volatile forces at play within her.
Absolutely. And we learn about the burden of being elemental through the reactions of the elders and the constant hushed whispers that follow her.
Yeah, it's interesting how they react to her.
So how do you think this rather sheltered upbringing shapes her initial understanding of her own abilities?
It likely fosters a complex mix of wonder and fear.
Right.
She's clearly special, set apart.
Yeah.
But also potentially dangerous.
Right.
Something to be carefully watched and perhaps even controlled.
Yeah.
So this kind of upbringing would likely lead to a very limited understanding of her powers.
Yeah.
Focus more on suppression and containment.
Right. Rather than exploration, growth, and mastery, she's treated more as a phenomenon, an anomaly, than as an individual learning to navigate her own unique gifts.
Right.
Which would undoubtedly create internal conflict and a yearning for something more than just being an object of scrutiny.
Yeah, and the training itself is described in such a memorable way.
It is.
It's less like a serene avatar experience.
Right.
And more like a hormonal tantrum played out in thunderstorms.
I love that line.
So what does that kind of description tell you about the raw and untamed nature of her elemental magic?
Well, it immediately conveys that her powers are not refined, not easily channeled through traditional methods.
Right.
They're intrinsically linked to her emotional state, making them unpredictable, volatile, and intensely personal, much like the turbulent nature of adolescence itself.
Yeah.
And this stands in stark contrast to more conventional portrayals of elemental magic, which often emphasize rigorous discipline,
right,
precise control,
yeah,
and adherence to established techniques.
yeah,
Her magic is presented as something primal,
yeah,
instinctive,
yeah,
hinting at a far deeper, more fundamental connection to the elements than perhaps even her trainers fully comprehend.
yeah, absolutely. And then we have the introduction of the enigmatic whispering,
Right.
and this ominous shrouded figure known as the Shadowborn.
Yeah.
So this definitely introduces the idea of a much larger, darker force kind of looming in the background.
Right.
So what kind of threat do you think the Shadowborn represents in this world?
Well, the Shadowborn appears to be an ancient, malevolent entity.
Yeah.
Possibly a force of anti-magic.
Okay.
Or one that seeks to dominate and extinguish elemental power entirely.
Wow.
And the whispering likely represents a more insidious, manipulative influence.
Yeah.
Perhaps trying to corrupt or control those who wield elemental abilities for its own dark purposes.
Right. So it's interesting, the fact that this ominous legend resurfaces precisely as the teen's powers awaken.
It is interesting.
Suggests a direct and significant connection.
Yeah.
Like, her emergence isn't happening in a vacuum.
Right.
It's triggering a response.
Yeah.
Stewing a long-dormant threat.
Yeah.
And placing her squarely in its path.
So when the first real attack comes, we see that the traditional methods, like the earth ramparts and the conventional control of individual elements, prove surprisingly ineffective against the Shadowborn's assault.
Right.
So what does this reveal to you about the nature of this dark magic that they're facing? It strongly implies that the Shadowborn's magic operates on a fundamentally different principle.
Okay.
Something that traditional elemental defenses and understanding cannot effectively counter.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's a force that negates or corrupts elemental energy.
Okay.
Or maybe it manipulates the elements in ways that are entirely foreign to their established practices. So this immediate failure of conventional methods dramatically raises the stakes.
Yeah.
Forcing the teen to realize that she cannot rely solely on the limited training she has received.
Right.
And must find a new, perhaps even unprecedented way to harness her powers.
And then in a moment of pure desperation, she unleashes a power that goes far beyond her formal training.
Wow.
This seemingly impossible combination of all four elements working in unison.
That's incredible.
So why do you think this act is so incredibly significant? What does it suggest about the true untapped potential of elemental magic in this world?
I think this is the undeniable turning point of the story.
Yeah.
It signifies that the true, perhaps previously unknown potential of elemental magic doesn't lie in mastering each element in isolation, according to rigid tradition, but in their synergistic combination, in allowing them to flow and interact in an uninhibited way.
Interesting.
So her act is born of raw instinct,
Yeah.
a desperate gamble that pays off in a spectacular fashion, suggesting that her connection to the elements is far deeper and more intuitive than anyone, including herself, had realized.
Wow.
It strongly hints that the established understanding and teaching of elemental magic in this world might be incomplete, perhaps even fundamentally flawed.
And then she kind of has this realization that her powerful display hasn't really solved the larger problem.
Right.
In fact, it seems to have revealed an even greater conflict. And the idea that she might not be the last of her kind, after all.
Yeah.
How does this twist the familiar chosen one trope that we often encounter in fantasy?
Well, it brilliantly subverts the traditional chosen one narrative.
Right.
By revealing that she is likely not a singular, unique anomaly, but rather the first to reawaken in what could be a long dormant lineage of elementals.
Wow.
So this significantly broadens the scope of the conflict, suggesting a richer hidden history of elemental magic and a more widespread awakening to come. And the Shadowborn's desire to extinguish elemental magic likely stems from a deep-seated fear of its power, perhaps a past conflict, or a desire to control such immense forces for its own nefarious ends. So their motivation regarding other elementals would logically be either complete elimination to secure its dominance, or perhaps subjugation to harness their power for its own purposes.
And then her perspective undergoes a significant shift from being a guarded specimen under the watchful eyes of the elders to a flare or a beacon for others. So what do you think catalyzes this profound change within her?
Well, the realization that she is likely not alone, that her actions have perhaps triggered the awakening of others like her, fundamentally shifts her focus outward. You know, she is no longer just trying to survive or understand her own strange abilities in isolation. She has become a signal, a symbol of hope for others who might be awakening to their own powers. But also a more prominent target for the Shadowborn and its allies. So this newfound awareness brings with it an immense responsibility to find and protect these others, to guide them, and to ultimately stand united against the encroaching darkness. She has moved from being a subject of study to a potential leader.
And even with the gentle rain returning, offering a moment of much-needed calm, that lingering presence of the Shadowborn's laughter echoing in the clouds, really underscores the fact that the danger is far from over. How does this subtle detail create suspense and anticipation for future events in the story?
It's a masterful touch. You know, the return of the rain provides a temporary sense of relief, a brief respite after the intense confrontation. However, the lingering laughter is a chilling reminder that the threat has not been eradicated, merely pushed back for now. It's a sonic marker of the Shadowborn's continued presence and power. Creating a pervasive sense of unease. And an almost palpable anticipation for the inevitable next clash. It tells us that this victory, however significant, is only the beginning of a much larger and more dangerous conflict.
And then the teen has this powerful internal recognition. Marked by the line, "The farm girl is dead." So what do you think that signifies about her transformation throughout these events and the path that now lies ahead of her?
I think it signifies a profound and irreversible loss of innocence. The shedding of her former, simpler identity. The extraordinary and dangerous circumstances she's been thrust into have forced her to grow, to adapt, and to embrace a new reality, defined by her elemental power and the immense responsibilities that come with it. So the farm girl represents a past she can no longer return to. Her future is now inextricably linked to her destiny as an elemental. And the fight against the Shadowborn, it's a symbolic death of oneself to make way for the emergence of another.
And the story concludes with her taking decisive action, ordering the villagers to find the others. So what does this final command imply about her emerging leadership potential? And the nature of the fight against the darkness that lies ahead?
Well, it demonstrates a significant and rapid evolution in her character. You know, from someone who was sheltered and largely reactive. She's now taking initiative. Issuing commands, and assuming a clear leadership role. The directive to find the others underscores the idea that the fight against the Shadowborn is not a solitary one. It requires unity, the gathering of all those who share this elemental connection. So this final act sets the stage for a much larger and more expansive conflict and hints at her potential to become a true leader, uniting and guiding others in the face of a common enemy.
So you, having delved into these really captivating flash fiction stories, what are your overarching thoughts on these worlds where emotions become tangible forces and elemental power lies waiting to be ignited?
Well, in Heartstrings, we witnessed a fascinatingly subtle rebellion against manipulation, highlighting the often underestimated potency of deeply personal magic. And the Enchanter's journey leaves us contemplating the profound personal cost of wielding such intensely felt power and the inherent isolation that might accompany it.
Absolutely. And in Ember of the Elements, we were drawn into a young woman's explosive awakening to a hidden legacy, thrust into a perilous battle against a shadowy force that hungers to extinguish elemental magic. And her story is clearly just beginning, leaving us to eagerly wonder about the other awakened elementals scattered across the land and the collective bonfire of power they might ignite against the encroaching darkness.
I love it.
So these seemingly brief flash fiction stories offer such rich veins of thought to explore. Consider the diverse and imaginative ways that magic can manifest, not just in grand, showy spells, but in the delicate imbuing of emotion. And the raw, untamed power of combined elements.
Absolutely.
So what resonated most deeply with you in these particular tales?
I think for me, it's the idea that magic can be so personal.
Yeah.
And that it can be used for both good and evil. And I'm really curious to see what happens next in Ember of the Elements. Yeah. Will the teen find the other elementals? Yeah. Will they be able to defeat the Shadowborn? I can't wait to find out.
I know, me too. And what lingering questions have they sparked in your mind?
Well, I think I'm really interested in the idea of the emotional cost of magic. Yeah. Like in Heartstrings, the enchanter had to pay a price for using his powers, and I wonder if that's always the case.
Right.
Is there a way to use magic without sacrificing something of yourself?
That's a great question. And I think it's something that a lot of fantasy stories grapple with.
Yeah.
You know, the idea that power comes at a price.
Right.
It's a classic theme.
And it's one that I think is really relevant to our own lives.
Absolutely.
You know, even if we're not wielding magical powers,
right,
we all have to make choices. And sometimes those choices come with a cost.
Right.
So it's something to think about.
So we encourage you to continue exploring these themes of unconventional power systems, the burden of responsibility,
absolutely,
and the fight against unseen forces.
Right.
And thank you for joining us for this wizarding probe on You Son of a Witch.
Yeah.
Remember to rate and follow for more wild tales from the captivating world of flash fiction.